Hello, everyone joining us today on YouTube. We have our friend here, Hailey Lamb in California. She is a young entrepreneur, a YouTube. Uh, well, she's getting into YouTube now. She's works for the police department and in rental real estate. She could probably tell you more about herself than I can. So, Hailey, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Hailey. I think you pretty much covered all the bases. I am getting into YouTube, so if you are interested in that, go ahead and check me out on my YouTube page. It's just my Hailey Lamb. And I am a real estate investor. I started when I was 21, and I bought my first rental property, and then at 22, I bought my second. Now, at the end of my 23rd year, well, at the end of me being 23, right before I turned 24, I closed on this mobile home park with the help from Chris.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so those of you watching, I'm going to leave a link in the description to her YouTube channel. Please go like, follow, and subscribe. But I don't know if you caught that. She's 23 years old, and she's now at, I think it's like 16, 17 plus units. And if I'm not mistaken, financially independent at this point.
Yeah, so I think that within the next few months, I'm going to be financially independent. Since I just closed on mobile home park, there's still some stabilizing that needs to be done with that business. But I think that once it stabilizes, then yeah, I think I will be financially free based off of our conservative numbers.
Right. And so for anyone watching here, please understand that, it's not a matter of your age. It's more so a matter of applying yourself. So a little bit about Hailey. We had met, and I think maybe our first weekend, we started reviewing how to look at properties. And you went and analyzed, I don't remember the number. I think you told me something like 1 to 2,000 something properties across the United States. And I kind of scratched my head, and you're like, I think I found something. Do you want to talk about what you found?
Okay, yeah. So, well, at first, when, like on my YouTube video that I made, I had stated that it all started with my idea that I was going to buy a duplex. And then I came across you, and then you completely changed my mindset about what my goals should be. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I'm going to have you be my coach and my mentor, and I'm going to do exactly what you have advised me to do with mobile home parks. And I got super interested in that. So I started analyzing. I think I analyzed over 500 deals in 1 week, where I was on LoopNet, I was on Zillow, I went all over the United States, and I was looking for a really deal that has a good return on investment. So I finally narrowed it down to, I think, 5. And then I sent you links to those 5. And then we started analyzing. I think we went over the most prosperous looking top 2. And we narrowed it down to this one property that had great cash flow. It had 7 acres of land. It had waterfront, river access, and it's got 12 units currently rented on the lot, with 2 other additional hookups available. So there's room to put 2 more additional trailer or mobile homes in those 2 extra units.
Wow. So for people watching, please hit that like button, but I want you to catch what she said there. She looked at like 500 properties because people all the time are asking me like, how do you find good deals? And the answer is we look. So she put a lot of effort into looking once you have the tools on where to look for these things. And the more you look and the more you seek, the more you're going to find. And eventually it'll get to where people are calling you, bringing you deals. And I know that's coming in the works for you now as you start to build a reputation of, doing what you say and closing the deal. And, you want to talk a little bit about that too, because I know a lot of people watching say, well, how does someone buy a larger property, or how does someone scale, or how do you buy a $5 million property when you're broke? And the answer is sometimes sell or carry. And if you want, you can talk about how you had structured that and set it up.
Yeah, so I wanted to put the least amount of money down as possible to get a better return and to make my money go further so that I can invest it in other deals. And so I ended up doing a seller carry. That was the best option for this specific deal. Um, the the previous owners were willing to do a seller financing, but not the entire amount. So I had to go through the bank for the majority of the loan and then through the sellers for the minority of the rest of the loan. But the bank was like, hold up, you are a beginner investor. We do not agree to this. We want you to put in at least 10% of what we're loaning you because you've never closed on commercial property. So I ended up having to put down like $22,000 to purchase this mobile home park that I priced at $350,000. So I think that's a pretty good trade-off to get 12 units for $22,000 as the upfront investment, and then to have the return nearly $6,000 a month gross and over $2,000 net. I think that's pretty good.
That's excellent. Yeah, you'll make your money back in about a year or so, give or take. And for those of us who are watching who may be new to real estate and don't understand what a seller carry is, to put the math out there, let's say you're buying a $1 million property. And typically, the traditional financing is you're going to put 20% down. So 200 grand would generally come out of your pocket. But you can get a piece of paper and attach saying that the seller's going to give me 200 grand at 10 years at 6% interest, and attach that to the bank and let them know up front, this is what I'm planning on doing. And therefore, the bank gives you 80%, 800K, 200K comes from seller. You do the whole deal for maybe closing costs. And it's a great way to buy bigger deals because the down payments become substantial as you move into, say, the millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands. And it's a way you can grow. Now, something too, we haven't really got to experience it yet, is as you do a deal, say over 700 grand, that's typically going to go to a board. And so I want to share for some of the people out there watching who are doing deals over 700 grand, a watch out or maybe a way to kind of work through the board and around them, because sometimes the board can get in your way. And so here's what you do.
Right.
You're upfront with them, say, Mr. or Mrs. Banker, I've got our seller carry here. And in this case, the bank worked with you too. I want to talk about that too, like how they worked with you, you negotiated with them. But in the case that they don't work with you, you can be upfront and say, look, I'm going to do this deal three ways. I'm going to get a seller carry. You're going to get the money up front, do the whole deal for $0, or even post seller financing to where if you had it, you put 200 grand down, close the deal, and the seller gives you 200 grand right back, and you still do the deal for $0. And so there's a lot of ways to work through these deals. There's not one right or two right ways to do it. It's just what's right for you at that moment in time. And maybe talk a little bit about that too, how you were able to negotiate, because in the beginning they were wanting you to put a lot more money down.
Oh, yeah. The negotiation took me 3 or 4 months because I started out, I found this property, I believe, in December or January, and I didn't end up closing on the property until the end of July. So there was, I mean, typically for my other houses, it's taken me 3 to 4 months to go through negotiation to closing, and this one ended up taking me well over 6 months. And the first few months of that was just negotiating with the bank, and it was a slow process because I had 2 different loans. I was also negotiating with the sellers. So because I am a new investor with commercial property, the bank wanted me to put a substantial amount of money down. I can't remember exactly how much originally they wanted me to put down. I think it was 20% because that's pretty typical. But then I went back to the sellers and I told them that I was having this issue, and he actually, the lender that I knew actually knew the sellers of the property, which I think helped as well with getting the seller carry loan. Then he had to get it approved through his bank, through his board, even though it was a small amount. I had to wait for that meeting for it to get approved. And so we finally came up with an agreement. And then after we finally had the agreement of what we were going to do in terms of the financing for the loan, it still took a few months after that for things to iron out before closing. So it was a long process.
It was a long process. And, it does scare people too. And when you get into real estate, people think, I want to get rich now. And it's not really like that. It's more like get rich over a period of time. And it does take time. It took half a year to close this deal. And when you get into these bigger commercial deals, the appraisals take longer, the underwriting can take longer. And then the reason you had reached a part where he had to go seek some more approval, that banker has a legal lending limit, which means within my own authority and my own pen stroke, I can blanket approve a deal of say 300 grand. Here's all the money, do what you want to do. But once you hit that legal lending limit per individual banker, then it has to go up a step above that person, and that can take a little longer. But the point is, you got it done. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to work through the difficult times, because sometimes the board will get in your way. And so if the board gets in your way, just know that you can work through them, around them, under them, over them, behind them. There's like 17, 20 different ways to do it. And it takes some creative financing. Sometimes you may have to pledge an asset in lieu of down payment if you don't have any money, which means you might have like a paid for tractor and you buy a commercial deal, which is something we've helped someone do. And in this case, you were able to get the sellers to give you most of the money, and you didn't need that much. And so, what do you think is going to be next? It sounds like you're stabilizing the park. Are you going to fly out there? Or have you even seen this place yet in person?
So, no, I have not seen the property in person yet. So during the past, I want to say 5 months, I was busy with personal things happening, or I had to be taking care of some family emergencies that came up. So I was unable to fly out to property before seeing it. It's not my first time purchasing a property sight unseen, so it wasn't necessarily a huge risk, at least in my eyes, to do so, as long as I've got the property inspection, the report, and the pictures, and I know what I'm getting into, if there's any dead stops, which there wasn't. So I ended up going through it. However, after my property inspection was done, after the pictures and everything, there was an issue with one of the tenants. She ended up vandalizing one of the mobile homes in between the time of me getting my inspection done and me closing. So I come to find out that after I purchased the property, one of the trailers got vandalized, which we're still trying to work out. The previous sellers are taking that tenant to court to hopefully reimburse me so that I can get that mobile home fixed. And it was bad. It was pretty bad. There's holes in the walls and there's so many fleas. It's so flea infested that you walk inside and there's just tons of fleas that are on your legs. I was on FaceTime with my property manager and I felt so bad for her. She walked in and she just like, oh my gosh, I can't go in there anymore. And she showed me all of the fleas and I was like, wow. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. I still need to fly out there at some point when I can. But right now I'm mainly relying on my property manager, and I think it'll take a few months for me to really stabilize that, hopefully get the money from the court, and fix up that trailer. So there's still some work that needs to be done. Another thing that came up was that since the mobile home park is not on city water, they have their own water system, there was an issue where I have to now have someone go test the water every day. So I had to get that set up, and there's still some paperwork that I need to do and finish on that end as well. So I mean, there's just a lot of things like with any property that you buy, that there's going to be unexpected things that come up that you have to address and fix. And anyone who has owned rental properties is, I'm sure, well aware of the process.
Absolutely. And so that's a very impressive for people watching, she has bought something. She's in California, bought something in New York, out of state, is managing it out of state, hasn't even seen it yet. So just what we're saying is don't let fear, false expectations appearing real stop you. Because if she can do it at 23 years old, then you can do it. And I know exactly what you're feeling. We have, from this chair, we bought, renovated, rented, and sold and done deals out of our hot tub multiple times. And those fleas, that's not the first, second, 10th, 20th, 100th time you're going to deal with it. And so that's not to scare someone at all. Don't be afraid of that. That is a normal part of this business. Like, it's, some people get upset. They're like, I don't want to deal with that. And that's okay. Don't do this business. But if you're willing to work through that, resolve some of the issues and take care of people, it can be very prosperous. And yes, you have to deal with things. And people are like, well, I don't want someone calling or texting me. I don't want to deal with that. Well, if people aren't calling and texting you, they're generally not paying you and you're not doing anything. So to each their own. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. It's just, it is what it is. Because I'm sure that probably freaked you out a little bit. Was that your first time?
So the first time that I purchased a property that was out of state, I was concerned about what might have been missed in the property inspection, and I flew out there the week after it closed, and I ended up doing a remodel to the exterior and the interior of the home, just small things like painting and stuff like that. And now with this property, it is much larger and there's a lot more that comes with it. So I still am, you know, it's risk management, risk versus reward though. And as long as the numbers make sense, then I think that takes away a lot of the fear. When I look at the numbers, I'm like, okay, well, I've got a large enough cushion here to where if something does go wrong, I've got it factored in already and I've got it taken care of. So I know that it's risk management. And I mean, it's not for everyone, right? But if you are good at analyzing those numbers, like when we went over, then I think that it could be a really great opportunity for anyone who's interested. And, you know, don't be scared of debt, because not all debt is bad debt. And I think that's another issue why a lot of people don't get started with real estate, because they think they need to put 20% down, or they think that if you have more debt that it's a bad thing. But yeah, I'm sure, you know, you could speak on that as well.
That's true. And like I said before, just don't let fear stop you. And, you know, from your perspective, what is it that you would want to encourage young women or young men to think about, or as they're getting into this, you know, what are some things that have helped you work through it?
I think that I stayed focused, and I think that as long as you're dedicated to something and you have the self-discipline to keep your eyes on whatever your vision might be for the type of lifestyle you want, it's really about creating that goal initially on what you want out of life, and then finding ways and believing in yourself and staying on track to do those things. Planning ahead makes such a big difference. And I think that the thing I want to speak on behalf of young women getting started with investing, I think there's a whole nother set of challenges that typically not all women, but a lot of women face, such as saving money for the down payment on your first house is really difficult. A lot of high-paying jobs, especially for newly high school graduates, there's less opportunities to go and find those really high-paying jobs, maybe because the blue-collar jobs aren't, they don't hire women, or they're not readily available to different kinds of women. So I would just say that it takes a lot of budgeting, a lot of planning ahead, and a lot of determination from the beginning, because I think I started saving for my down payment when I was 18, and I ended up not having that first initial down payment to get started in real estate until I was, I think, 20, 21. So there's a whole nother set of challenges, and I think just keep pushing through it, stay determined, and if I can do it, then I think that you can do it too. And you just have to keep believing in yourself.
I love that. And what I heard is focus, follow one course until successful. You said you were very focused. And so from 18 to early 20s, you were budgeting and you said you were dedicated to this is what you want to do. And it kind of goes back to what we said earlier. This is not get rich quick. This is several years in the making. Your overnight success took 3+ years. And most people don't want to hear that, but it's just the truth. But if you stay dedicated and focused on a goal and believe in yourself and find people that believe in you and say, you could definitely do this. It's not even difficult. It's not hard. Hundreds of people have done, millions of people have done this actually. And so it's not like we are unique individuals. We're not particularly smarter than them. We're just, willing to stay with it for a long period of time and work with people and get around those who can help, influence and believe in ourselves. And I think that has a lot to do with why you're continuing to grow and be successful. And maybe you can speak more on that too, on like what are some of the things that have helped you grow the most?
I think that when I was initially getting into finances, I was 17 years old when I graduated high school. And 10 days after I graduated, I was basically on my own financially, and I didn't know anything about credit, anything about managing money. So I ended up going to the local library and checking out a bunch of financial books. And I ended up reading things on credit score, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Millionaire Next Door, some of those great books, Grant Cardone. So that's what got me started. I was 17, I didn't have a plan. And then I ended up actually losing 4 jobs, which was really hard. You're young, you're finally getting started, and you don't really have a fallback, and you're trying to figure out how to make all your payments on your bills, and how to afford college and all of that. There was just so much stress and so much scarcity, I think, that I decided this is not how I want to live. I need to change something, and I need to start following this other direction of people who are already successful, people who I would want to trade places with. And I didn't have a whole lot of resources started out, so I just followed exactly what Robert Kiyosaki had said in his book, and that's initially what got started. And I think the fear of being in that situation that I was in at 17 or 18 or 19 years old really kept pushing me, because I knew how hard it was to get started and how I didn't have really a fallback, So that fear of being in that situation again kept pushing me, as well as motivation for how my lifestyle in the future could be and what I want my life to look like within the next 5 years. That also was a huge factor in staying focused and determined. I created a vision board. I created one every year since I was, I think, 17. And every time that I create that vision board for the year, it keeps me focused, and I have it on my door and I have it on my phone. It's the screensaver for my phone. So looking at that and looking at the goals that I have for the year, and now I've got my 5-year goal and my 10-year goal on there as well. That helps me stay focused. Just those things that help your mind. You're looking at it every day and you're like, okay, I can do this. This is doable for me. I've seen other people, maybe not in person, do it, but online do it. So there's also this sense of almost, what's the right word for it? I mean, it's like you believe in yourself in a crazy way. Like you just have unrealistic expectations about your success sometimes, but sometimes that's what you need in order to believe that you can do it and find those routes to success because you're constantly looking for those areas to be successful. If you're constantly shut down and you think, oh, I can't do this, then you're not going to be looking for those other routes where you can actually become successful. It takes that delusional optimism in order to get to where you want to be sometimes.
I love that. And I think what I heard there is basically adversity mixed with opportunity. And that's what life is. You know, that discovery phase of the education, it starts in the library and Rich Dad Poor Dad. Jim Rohn talks about library cards cost how much? Free. But less than 3% of people have them or use them. And the thing is, if you want to achieve and do and have what no one else has in terms of like your own life, because it's not me against you or you against me, it's us against ourselves. It really starts with that discovery phase of like create that crystal clear vision in your vision board there. You see it every day to get crystal clear results. Because if you don't know what you want, you just kind of wander. But when you know exactly what you're going after, whether it's 1 year, 3, 5, 10 year goals, they tend to happen and sometimes at an accelerated pace. That 10-year goal set out here in the future may get drug up into year 2 and happen faster than you anticipated, and sometimes not even how you anticipated. Because, I mean, I don't know where your thoughts were before, but I imagine, to get close to 20 units, we thought we would be older, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we thought it took too
Oh yeah,
long, took too fast. I really don't know. That's up to the individual.
yeah, yeah. I remember our first phone call, I was asking you the question, how do people buy multiple units in 1 year? It seems like every time I buy another unit, the bank tells me that I need at least 1 year of income as proof to show that my debt to income ratio doesn't get messed up and I can continue investing. And I was like, my goal is to buy a duplex this next year and maybe 2 duplexes. And you're like, why are you setting your goals so low? You could do 10 times that. And I can tell you how. And you started telling me how. And I was like, you're right. Why did I never think of this before? I mean, you just don't know what you don't know. I had no idea what I didn't know. And that's where I think having you as my coach completely changed that for me, where I was going to go down this other route because I didn't know that this other one existed. Until I started talking to you, who has done it and who has been successful in chasing this larger goal. And then when I see that you've done it, it makes me think, well, okay, I've seen someone else who's done it, and I can apply what you teach me. And that's exactly what I wanted to do. From day one, I was like, okay, I can bring forward so many deals, I can analyze so much in 1 week, and then we can just jump right into it from 0 to 100. I'm just going to go initially all out in this and find what I'm going to do and start working on that and start applying it immediately. I don't want to just learn, I want to apply it. So yeah, I think it was, like I said in my other video, it was 100,000% worth it for me to have you as my coach. And I would recommend that for anyone who's watching. If you're interested, Chris is a great coach. He's a great mentor. And I wouldn't have been able to do exactly what I've done without his help.
I appreciate that. And at the end of the day, it's all God's stuff. And, the only one good is Him. So thank you for that. And we hope that this helps somebody. And at the end of the day, that's why we do this. And I guess wrapping up, for those out there who are watching, we believe in you. Hailey can do it. We were able to do it. And I don't think I'm that old. I'm 33, not anyway. I feel old some days, but, you know, we believe in you. And, please leave that like button, follow Hailey, and I expect to see greater things from her. I think 100 units is around the corner. It's probably not very far away. And I know that may be a stretch now, or so we think, but it's really not, because it's not hard. So we appreciate you. Thank you for your time. And Hailey, do you have anything you want to tell the audience before we get off here?
Any closing remarks, you said?
Yes.
No, No, I would say, you know, plan for retirement and invest in real estate, but also live life to the fullest and enjoy the journey.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Well, thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.